Big day, like the elephant in the bedroom. Now, I want you to understand something, Gwen. I'm gonna pick on y'all for a minute.
Okay.
Not because I'm mad at you or nothing, but it just serves a very good point so you can see what I'm trying to say. Okay. Now, a big day is an all-out push to break an attendance barrier. Why? It's not about the people. It's not about just having people. It's about understanding that if you remember, does anybody remember how many Jesus appeared unto when he was resurrected?
500.
There you go. 500 people. Does anybody know how many people were in the upper room? Are you telling me that 380 people saw Jesus resurrected? Think about this. Jesus is dead. Jesus is now alive. 380 people saw that and never thought that they should follow any further. So, how many were there? How many disciples were there prior to Jesus' death? Well, okay, I'll give you that. There were 70, and it went down to what?
12.
Okay. And then the 12 turned into 500 saw it and only 120, right? Then Peter preached. And he said, these men are not drunk as ye suppose. And how many people came to the Lord?
3,000.
Now, with a big day, it's the same thing. It's come and see. There's go and tell, which is evangelism. That's reaching out. And then come and see is where you invite people in. Exact same concept. Last year, we did not do a fall big day, and it crippled our attendance. Because here's what happens. Let's say, I think last year, you have those numbers on your phone? Is that what you were looking at? What was the attendance in February? Oh, you told me.
243. Oh, not February. That was Easter. I'm sorry.
We started at 120, I think it was. And then in February's big day, it went to what? I think it was 190, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere in there. And then it was, and then it went down from there. Because here's what was supposed to happen. You have a big day, 190, it levels off maybe at 170. Then it jumps to 243 and levels off at 200. And then it jumps to 400 and levels off at 300. It's always the up, same thing. Up, down, up, down, up. It continues, but every time it levels, it's at a higher number. And so the concept of big days is there are natural big days in a calendar. If you've ever heard me say so-and-so is a CME member, or they go to the CME church, that's Christmas, Mother's Day, and Easter. Those are natural big days. So Easter is like the Super Bowl. And so let me make sure everybody in here understands. You are expected to be here on Easter. I don't care if you take off any other day, but Easter is all hands on deck. Okay, and I've had to, unfortunately, have to have that conversation here recently, but I don't know why I would have to, because Easter is the biggest day of the year. So what we did was we created 2 more big days. One in February, which is the relationship series. Why? Because about February, most people are depressed. Most people commit suicide in the month of February. That's a fact. So we created a big day in February to help people continue to grow. And then the second natural big day is in the fall, when people are going back to school. And that's where they're settling back in their routines. They come off of vacation, kids going back to school, and they start getting back into their routine. And that's where, so now we have Christmas, Mother's Day, Easter, fall, and February. And then we have Father's Day as well, which nobody puts any respect on Father's Day. But I'm not going to grind that axe today. However, my point is that a big day basically consists of us pushing to break these barriers here. Because the higher they are, when we go to settle, they come down to higher numbers and we continue to grow. And so why do we do a big day? The first reason is to evangelize. We want to reach new people. The second one is the mission, which is to make the devil mad. You know how it pisses the devil off that we get growth and we continue to grow? The devil does not want our church to grow. He doesn't want people to hear the messages that we're preaching, the stuff we're talking about. He wants them to stay blinded and lost in everything that they are. That video that I did on Soul Ties has peaked over 1,000 people, and it's been shared over like 50 times. And so the highest video we have of all of them is, I think, shared is like 20 shares, and it's like it's just at 1,000 or so, or over 1,000. Before that, it's like 300, maybe 200 shares, or 200 likes or views rather. That has been a wildfire, and it's only been a week. People need to know these things, and it's not just for the small few. We cannot stay here. It's just not what God wants us to do. So the third thing is discipleship. It's to disciple the members of the church. It's to get people to do the work. The truth of the matter is, if we could really be honest, most people are lazy. And I know that. But do you know that God calls us to have them serve? They're not supposed to be sitting around watching you guys serve. They're not supposed to be sitting around not involved and not helping. They are supposed to serve. That is theologically correct. That is discipleship correct. And it's only appropriate that they help in some way, shape, or fashion. It's wrong for somebody to be dropping their kids off in the kids program thinking that that's okay, but they don't serve anywhere in the church. Amen. That's a problem. And so it needs to be handled and taught correctly that this is part of discipleship to teach people how to be a part of the church. And then growth, which is to build momentum in our church. Anything that isn't growing is dying. If you had a 15-year-old kid that hasn't grown any higher than he was at 2, that's a problem. Everything naturally is supposed to grow. And so now, when you look at the pieces of it, there's prayer, there's promotion, there's preservation, there's personal evangelism, and then there's pastor. And so the 5 P's, the 5 P's are very simple. What we're supposed to do is obviously bathe everything in. We should be all praying for the same numbers, the same outcome. When we do a promotion is the mailers. We mailed out 10,000 mailers to a 3-mile radius of this church when we did Elephant in the Bedroom. We're getting ready to do Easter again, and we're going to do another 10,000 for Easter. Now, the problem is, I want you to think about this for a minute. The challenge is that if we do a 10,000 mailer, and let's say last week we had how many first-time guests from your side? 12. But how many turned in connection cards? So now that was my fault, because when I did announcements and hosting at the end, I never mentioned filling out that card. And I should have, but I missed it. I completely missed it. One place where I didn't do my job caused us to miss the fruit that came from all of our promotion. Because see, the assimilation team they're supposed to preserve what comes out of these 2 things. So what do? We do invites and we give them to the church, right? But for 3 weeks or 2 weeks, your team, this is the part where I'm picking on you. Your team was not giving out invites to every single person. So now we got 2,000, first of all, we got 1,000 invites back there that haven't even been put together. We are now 3 weeks in. This thing is halfway over, and we still have 1,000 invites that are not even put together to be given out. And as of, I know this week now, we're getting better with that. But prior to that, we spent, I don't know, thousands on 3,000 invites. And we still have, what, 2,000 left, roughly? We're 3 weeks in. We've had Wednesday, Sunday, Wednesday, Sunday, Wednesday, Sunday to hand these things out. And we still have 2,000 of them. That's a problem. They're not helping us. Sitting in a box, they need to be pushed out the door. So again, if assimilation is not handling the people who've come in through these places properly, and I'm not making the proper announcements to get people to put their information down, guess what's happening? We spent all this money for nothing. This is how individual ministries can be working against us and not even know it. Because we're not on the same page. This requires prayer. It requires promotion. Can I be honest with you? The reason why we do the 10,000 mailer is not really because we expect 10,000 people to come from the mailer. It's because everybody in the church gets excited when their neighbors, when their friends, when they get them in the mail. They get excited and they start doing what? Yes. Personal evangelism. They start inviting people more and more. This was the most important thing that we needed for this elephant in the bedroom, and it failed because they're still sitting in boxes in the lobby right now. Does everybody understand? Yes, sir. So, again, this is why we're teaching this. This is why we're learning this. This is why this needs to be a part of the leader track system, so that when people are being developed, they see all this and they recognize their role in all of this. Not expecting you to know this ahead of time, because I know you didn't know it. But my point is, if you had known it, you would have said to me the first time it happened, you said, Pastor, nobody's taking them because they don't have anything to hold them in. And we just said, okay, well, let's put them in bags. Let's do something. What do you suggest? And we'd have fixed that problem on the first service so that all these invites would have been gone. But because this information is not being shared, this is a problem. Because again, the promotion we do is air cover. We pay on Facebook to promote it. We mail out mailers to the neighborhood and to the area. And then we give people invites they need to do personal evangelism. And then we got the assimilation team whose job is, when this stuff comes in, to catch it, to process it, to follow it through. And then obviously my responsibility from the pulpit is to preach the messages that help people understand how to be sensitive to the fact that we need to do outreach, and then we need to bathe the whole thing in prayer. And as we execute a whole big day, that's the whole point. It's the whole purpose of it. And like Ricky brought up, we make calls. We call everybody who's ever been to our church. We have a list of, 700 people, I think it is. And, this is the other side of, for example, congregational care. We can't be bringing in all these new people and bleeding out all these old people. We have had problems with congregational care in the past. I believe we're going to rectify those, but in the past, it would take too long to get information around as to who's doing what, who's where, who's in the hospital, who's not in the hospital. It just took way too long, and our response times were too broad. And so in that time, Satan's working on them, causing offense, and then we're losing people. So when you think about all this we're trying to do to bring people in, and then we got people coming out the back door because of the fact that congregational care is not where it needs to be. And pastor can't do it all. One person can only know that many people. It is a statistical fact that one human being can only know. So if we're going to grow to this, we need a lot of y'all doing your part and knowing 75 people, watching what's going on, seeing who's sick, who's not in service, who's offended. I mean, there's a variety of nonsense that goes on. But that information needs to be reported to congregational care so they can follow through and follow up. And if you start to see it, it's a system. It's a system of bringing people in the front, come and see. It's a system of us going out and ministering to people, go and tell. And then it's also closing the back door to make sure people have somewhere to go. And when they have somewhere to go, when you have, right now we have 85, or 80, how many people serve ministry helps roughly?
99.
So if there's 100 people in ministry helps right now, that's actually a pretty good number. Because statistically, 50% of your church should be in ministry helps. But I want to caution you about something. If 50% are supposed to be in ministry helps, if our goal is 1,000, how many people should be in ministry helps? We got to have 500 people serving. You know what that means? Where are they going to go? If y'all are running around acting like y'all got it handled, if Lori's like, I don't need anybody in this stewardship team, I got it all covered. Okay, well, where are these people going to serve? If you're like, well, I got 5 greeters, that's all we need. Where are these people going to serve? We got to start breaking this up so that people have an opportunity to serve. And it's very simple. It's called a quadrant. And here's the quadrant. You take any task that you have, any task, anything that somebody does in the ministry, you break it up into a quadrant. So let's take your curbside, right? Break it into 4 quadrants. What does the curbside person do? You got one position here, right? This is a curbside person. Now I just made 3 positions. 1 is somebody who cleans. 2 is somebody who stands at the door. 3 is somebody who's out in the parking lot helping people in their car and out of their car. That's now 3 positions. That's a quadrant. Now you went from 1 position to 3. And now you got to fill all 3 of those. So here's your job. You open the doors. Here's your job. You assist people. You're in the parking lot. We get you some kind of outfit, something, neon lights, something that signifies you're a part of the church. Maybe it's a golf cart. One of my dreams has been to have golf carts that run the parking lot and pick up people and bring them to the front door. So now you've got, do you see it? That's how you do it. Any position you got, doesn't matter. You pick a position, break it down into 4 quadrants. Now you got the 4 things they do. Now somebody needs to clean, somebody needs to open doors, somebody needs to assist people out of cars, somebody needs to drive the golf cart. That's how we go from, think about this for a second. If all 100 positions were split into 4, we would reach, we'd be pretty doggone close, wouldn't we? And then if those split into 4, how many is that? 1,600 people serving. And how many of you know if we have 1,600 people serving, we have more than 1,000 people coming to church? Because nobody serves and don't come to church.
That's right.
See it?